Hi, this is Togrim, and you are watching my first video for Rift. I started the game during the Head Start, which launched last week on Feb 24, and my spec is a mix of Riftblade and Paladin. I've got 8 points in Paladin to enable me to get the full heal ability, and also some nice buffs to my block and shield reactive abilities. And I put the rest of my points into Riftblade. You can see I actually had 2 more talent points that I need to spend, which I didn't notice until after this video was made. And I'm buffing my teammates here after we res as we're running, and I have one buff for myself called Avatar of Wind, which gives me a nice 10% movement increase. You'll see here I actually outrun the other folks who res with me. So for all warriors, we can build up attack points when we use certain abilities. Attack points are similar to Holy Power for Paladins in World of Warcraft or Rogues in World of Warcraft, except those points build up on the player. So I can accumulate up to 3 attack points, and so I can use one ranged fire casting ability, instant cast, called Flame Spear to build them up and also to do damage. And then I hop onto this healer here. I should have interrupted. One thing interesting about Rift is the cast bar is actually above the head of the target, which makes it kind of hard to see. I'm sure that'll get addressed with add-ons or changed in the future. So I'm taking some heavy focus fire here. I was going to pick up the flag, but one of my teammates does. And then I go ahead and strafe kite around this tree to break line of sight and wait for some of my heal over time ticks to go up. I'm getting healed. And then I attack these players here, these opponents who are trying to get back to the flag from behind. So, I talk about this a lot if you've watched my other videos. It's important to watch your facing on your opponents and try to strafe behind them so that they can't see you. If they can't see you, they can't attack, they can't block, they can't parry. And the reverse is true. As long as you've got your target in front of you, you can block and parry. So you'll see here, for example, this warrior here starts to walk straight backwards, which is a really bad thing to do. So I go ahead and strafe kite behind her, and I'm just pounding her as she moves. So I made some macros. The macroing ability in Rift is it's pretty simple right now. It doesn't have a lot of rich functionality such as cast sequence from World of Warcraft, but what it does allow me to do, I do have my main spam macro that looks like this. It's the button on my 3 key. You can see me hitting it a lot. It basically casts Retaliation, which is an instant cast off the global cooldown shield reactive whenever I block, so I can smack someone in the face with it. Really nice. If that spell's not available, it'll cast Aggressive Block. And if that's not available, then it'll cast Searing Strike, which is my main spammable. So one really interesting thing here, and I used this on this player as I was closing the gap from range. So you can build up attack points from range using Flame Spear, and then you can use Activate Fiery Burst, which is the instant cast off the global cooldown enchant, although it does have an animation from what I noticed. And then when you cast Flame Spear from distance, it will actually apply the Fiery Burst dot. Fiery Burst is a really, really tight, compact dot. I think it ticks for 3 or 4 times. Once a second. So you can see here, this warrior is kind of fun. This warrior is strafing away from me, but she actually traced backwards into terrain, which is a really good reason to get rid of the backspace key, or the backward movement key. If you're playing, you really shouldn't be using it for any melee PvP. So here, for example, I activate Frozen Armor for the snare. You can see the player is slowed. I've got my Fire Burst dot ticking, and I'm getting a lot of steady damage. So, this is a one-handed spec, and a lot of people, say cross-game one-handed specs can't do damage. And, in my experience, I've been able to find ways to get one-handed specs to have very functional damage with tanks in World of Warcraft. In tanks in Warhammer, with Protection Paladin in World of Warcraft. The main thing is just really understanding the mechanics of your class and playing to its strength. So, for example, in this game, I have a lot of fast instant cast reactive abilities. I have a really nice fire dot. I have a fire damage ability, Flame Spear, I can apply from range. And so you can see here this target's moving away from me. I cast Frozen Armor to snare or slow the target down and then help burn them down. So, so far I found this has been a good spec for me. It really provides good survivability and very solid sustained DPS. It's not going to give you the burst damage that you might see, for example, with a champion spec, two-handed warrior, or the sustained DPS from a dual-handed Paragon spec, but I do have a nice mix of non-physical damage, spell damage. So here you can see I use Frozen Armor from range again, snare the target, and then burn him down. So I've been really happy with the spec so far. I haven't really done a lot of research into Rift. I basically just sat down, looked at the talent trees for about an hour and a half, and decided, I wanted to see if I could find a one-handed spec that would allow me to have very good survivability but good functional damage, and so far this seems to be working. I looked around a little bit on the Rift boards and didn't see anyone else trying the spec, so I'll be kind of chronicling my experience with it, and I'm going to try a lot of specs with Rift. Rift has some crazy customizability. Each class has 9 different talent trees, and you can choose to invest in 3 different ones. So you can see here, looking at the killing blows, I have 11, and the next closest person in this Warfront or Battleground has 5. So again, closing the gap here, activate Fireburst, and go ahead and burn that target down. And then we win the match. And I actually finished. So I finished tops by more than double with Killing Blows, 3rd overall in damage. And this is with a character that's level 15. So right about in the middle of the level bracket, and an all green gear. So nothing special as far as gear. I don't outgear my opponents, but you can see it works pretty well. I was in there with a friend of mine named Nathan. He was playing Kaz.